I always tell people that the world today is starving for meaning, not motivation. There's enough motivation in enough motivational speakers. There's a crisis of depth in this so called performance culture. Let me ask you this. What if the exhaustion we feel isn't from doing too much, but actually from doing what doesn't matter to our soul? In this modern culture, obsessed with goals and metrics and momentum, what if we are truly starving for is a sense of meaning? Not more motivation, not more hacks, not more hacks for productivity either, but a deeper sense of why we exist. You see, fundamentally, motivation is stimulation, meaning is substance and sustenance. Most of us are trained to chase productivity, to rise every morning and grind and push. It's even glamorized on social media and in the culture. But any motivation without the soul becomes exhaustion very fast with speed. True energy arises from alignment, not effort. In fact, there is a sense of effortless flow when you are in true alignment. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha para dharmat swaha anushtitat. What that means is, better one's own dharma, though imperfect, than the dharma of another well performed. Meaning, that meaning is not external success. It is inner harmony with your true path, not trying to copy what others are doing or expecting from you. On a scientific note, I was reading a study from Stanford Center for Compassion and Altruism. It has shown that people driven by intrinsic values like connection, compassion, and purpose are actually more resilient to stress and experience greater well being than those motivated by competition or approval. That's ironic, it came out of Stanford, one of the most competitive universities. Performance culture actually glorifies outcomes, meaning sanctifies the process. The world applauds mostly the output, the followers, incomes, status, material possessions. Unfortunately, your soul does not care about these metrics. Your soul wants presence, depth, and a beauty that arises from living your truth. In spiritual life, the path itself is sacred and profound. The Upanishads say, Yada bhavam tatha bhavati. As your being, so becomes your becoming. I will say again. Yada bhavam tada bhavati. As your being, who you are being, becomes your becoming. That means who you become eventually is the person of how you behave. In other words, your inner state shapes your outer reality. Inner chaos, outer crisis. After years of building and performing, a few years ago, I also realized my soul was asking something gently, quietly, but profound. The soul was not saying, Leo, what is next? It was asking me, why now? Like, why now? Why do you now need to do all this? That's when my energy shifted from an anxiety to finish checking the boxes of performance to clarity. Not because I stopped working. In fact, I worked harder since then, but because I started listening to what truly expresses my purpose. I realized more profoundly that the soul seeks meaning, not speed. Ancient seekers did not rush, they walked. If you notice, the yogi just sits. Of course, in a yogic awareness, the monk breathes, the mystic listens to the universe. They know the deeper you go inwards, the less you need to prove outwards. As the great seer Ramana Maharishi once said, your own self-realization is the greatest service you can tender to the world. So why do we keep outsourcing our worth to achievement? What we truly crave is sattva, inner stillness that brings clarity, or inner stillness with clarity. Not an endless race, an endless momentum. Like I say, if life is a rat race, even if you win, you are still a rat, right? Inside the race. So an endless movement is not helpful, but meaningful momentum is helpful. One of my favorite authors, Viktor Frankl, said in Man's Search for Meaning, I'm sure many of you have read it, those who have a why can live to bear almost any how. Meaning is not soft. It is a sacred fuel. So let's take a step back. What are we really asking for today from ourselves, from our life? Not louder motivation, but a gentler, more profound, and perhaps quieter truth. Not necessarily more ambition, but more soul alignment that brings peace and power of presence. I promise to you, you do not need another productivity system. You simply need to remember your reason for being. Raison d'être. I'm sure I've massacred the French, but reason for your existence. I mean, I remember a line now from the Chandogya Upanishad that says, Tat Tvam Asi. It's one of the 4 Mahavakyas, the great statement from the Vedas. You are that. That means the source of meaning is not out there in the world of illusion. It is in your breath, in the values that will make you are, and your deepest sincerity, your dharma, your service. So allow this to be the return, not simply a return to the everyday, but from the noise of the world to knowing of yourself, from performance to please and to achieve, to the presence to experience and be. Let's ask ourselves some basic questions. Where in my life am I chasing speed but lacking the soul? What is the deeper why? What is the deeper why that will bring me peace, not just progress? Ask yourself, am I living aligned with my inner dharma or somebody else's definition of success that I don't even like, but I live to it anyway? What would my work and life feel like if it were devotional to purpose, not just directional to success? And you will realize that there is a great sense of fulfillment, joy, and self-expression in living from meaning and in manifesting purpose. A kind of joy and fulfillment that we can never achieve with simply material results. So find meaning. Meaning will give you manifestation of purpose. Purpose will give you the why, which will bring joy to every moment of the journey of this life. All the best.